Welcome to the Peoria Central School Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, August 26th. We begin each meeting with the pledge to the flags. Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me know if I need to speak up because of the rain. It's pretty hard out there. So, listen, tonight we have an addendum to add to our agenda. It looks like it's all consent. We also need to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of August 26, 2025 with consent, including personnel, but excluding B1 and B2, and all of new business. Could I have a motion to bring that to the table? Ms. Scullin, thank you. A second. Mr. Marshall, thank you. Is there anything anyone would like to have pulled out of the agenda or the addendum? Okay. If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So next we move right into our first round of public comment, which is the board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give your name and address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to items that are listed on tonight's proposed agenda. Is there anybody who would like to speak to tonight's proposed agenda? Good. This is streamlined, moving right on. We need to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of August 12, 2025. Can I have a motion to bring that to the table? Ms. Hahn, a second? Second. Mr. Kinney, thanks. Any questions on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moving right into financial treasurer's report. We have a couple of items tonight. First is to approve the bid, which I believe is an annual bid. This bid is from Baggett and Laredo Baggett, CPAs BC for external audit services. Could I have a motion to bring that to the table? Ms. Scullin, thank you. A second? Second. Mr. Martin, thank you. Mr. Forbes or Dr. Zolix?
Turn it over to Mr. Forbes.
So every 5 years, districts are required to put out for bid audit services. This is why it did not appear on your July organization for products. We're in the process of getting our RFP secured from Baggett and Laredo, so that brings it to the agenda for tonight. Okay, that's fine.
Any questions on that? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. We also have our, this time of year, approve our transportation contracts for the year. These are not all of them, because they pop up from time to time, but quite a few of them. I have a motion to bring this to the table. Ms. Gullo, and second. Okay, motion and a second. Dr. Zolix.
Yeah, so each year we have this brief conversation because in a district where we lease our services and we don't own our own transportation equipment, sometimes the prices that appear on the agenda catch people off guard and are like, wow, that is significant. But there are a couple things to note here. So when we are looking at these prices, particular run, and these runs are regular AM and PM bus runs that happen on a daily basis, taking our children back and forth to school. This does not involve anything with athletics or anything beyond the school day. This is just kind of the typical bus runs. These prices include the following: a number of personnel, such as the dispatcher, management, and/or clerical staff. It includes the buses themselves. It includes any maintenance associated with the buses. It includes the bus mechanics that are employed by First Student to provide that maintenance to the buses. It provides bus drivers, also bus monitors when needed. There's not a monitor on every bus, but quite a few buses. Part of the process of maintaining your eligibility to be a bus driver is that there is random drug testing, so that is included in all this. Also is included as part of getting your license are a variety of, I didn't realize there's 3 road tests that they have to take. That's all included. There's also an annual physical for all bus drivers included. There's DOT inspections for all of the transportation equipment, which being part of districts where we own our own services, that is an intense process that usually happens near the end of the summer as you gear up for the school year. There is health insurance for the employees of First Student. There's also life insurance that they provide. One thing I didn't think about that I was talking about today again, registration for all of the buses. If you think about First Student as an organization across the country, it's a staggering number of the amount of money they just spend on registering the buses in each state. It includes the bus garage itself and all the utilities and things that need to be part of the bus garage. The bus lifts, the tools, the insurance, that would be above and beyond any insurance we currently have within the district here. There's all kinds of trainings that need to happen annually and some beyond that First Student does just because they think it's helpful, not necessarily required. There's trainers that provide that training. There are a lot of consumable items attached to buses, tires, batteries, brakes, windshield wipers, and such. And then you just have the other regular parts that are a little more durable, but ultimately need to be replaced over time. On the First Student bus, there is a monitoring system which allows them to see the speed of the bus, if the bus came to a complete stop, where that bus is located. There's also camera systems on those buses. There's also GPS attached to each one of those buses. And each bus has a tablet that helps run that equipment, so on and so forth. So there is a lot involved in those prices. Sometimes people just might think, yeah, you get a bus and a driver and that's about it. And all of these things together are built into those prices per run. Just as a little bit of further information, before and after school we have 18 buses that are part of our regular runs. Right now a gas bus is about $150,000. An electric bus is around $400,000. So think about us purchasing our own equipment or starting to go in that direction. It gets to be a huge amount of money if that ever was a consideration or would be a consideration, because I think that's sometimes the logical thought. Some people see these prices and go, why don't we just do this ourselves? Well, that is possible, but we're talking about a substantial investment, and all of the money that we spend on transportation is aidable, and our transportation rate, John, is
72.
So like 72%. So, you know, if we spend $100, we get eventually and ultimately 72. So for those reasons, I think all of that combined is why Fredonia probably initially got involved in this kind of relationship with First Student, and why we maintain that relationship at this point. So just want to provide a little background as we don't talk about this typically more than just once a year. So, questions?
Preemptively answered my questions. It is super important, I think, for the public to know that everything you just said is true. It's this isn't an expensive endeavor. If you look at it on the surface, it would seem like we should be able to do it for a lot less money than that. But the reality is all those factors that you just mentioned. That's why we need to be where we are. That's why we are where we are. So, thank you.
We should also mention that these are all extensions, they're not separate bids or new contracts. Based upon the contract that we did 3 years ago, these are 2.99%.
A follow-up to John. So throughout the year, we will have additional bus runs that pop up. Can you just talk about why those are necessary?
There should be at least 2 or 3 coming to next meeting, which is for, in 2 cases, special ed offsite, and 1 case of regular offsite.
And then we also have additional circumstances that arise where it's the middle of the year and there is a student that needs an accommodation to go someplace and we are responsible for that student.
And John, you do your usual ride share where you can cooperate or work with other schools.
So we're working with another district right now that has a homeless situation that we can assist with, that helped us in the past.
Which is a way to cost save. Well, that's a comprehensive list. I mean, I knew some of that, well, many, but I didn't thought. So there's a lot to it. It's more than just fuel. Any other questions, comments from the board? Transportation, it's pretty light. Thank you, Dr. Solias, for your list. All in favor? Opposed? So that brings us to a special presentation. Mr. Bertrando is in attendance tonight. He's going to speak on the 2024-25 Sports and Athletics review this past season. So Dr. Zoliak, any comments before Mr. Bertrando starts?
Yeah, just again, we recognize the value in our sports programs, the learning that happens in our sports programs, really thinking about these activities, commitment, dedication, being part of something larger than yourself, being part of a team, teamwork, and all the benefits that come along with that. And we see it as a really essential part of a student's education, should they choose to be involved. Laced into that is a bunch of student athletes who are fantastic and really do a nice job representing our school in an extremely positive way. I want to thank everybody who participates in our program, and please know that's not lost on us. We recognize that some students choose not to. We would like to think there's a real benefit to doing that. We appreciate our student athletes who participate in the same way that we appreciate our coaches, dedicated group of people who really go above and beyond and make a true commitment to spending time and developing young people across the board. And then we also have our AD, Mr. Bertrando, who jumped into the mix over the last couple of years. He's been doing a great job, and we appreciate all that you do to make it happen. So,
Thank you for having me. It's not a one-person show here. As you all know, it takes a lot of people to get to where we're at, and I'll kind of go through that as we go here. But again, I wanted to come and just kind of present to the board, give you a little bit of information as to what the athletic program is all about, and that way if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. Dr. Z just mentioned it, but first and foremost, there is a host of individuals across the board here that ultimately make this happen, right? There's the game day staff, everything that goes into when we host a competition or we attend someplace. We have the behind the scenes, everything that helps us to get to this point where we finally get to play and compete against other schools, the day-to-day staff, and then ultimately the support staff. And really, this whole kind of athletics component, it could not be done by one person. By no means am I the person that is pulling all the strings, because all of these people along the way have helped us, helped our students, helped our athletes to be able to do what they do on a day-to-day basis. Now, one of the things that I'm most proud of, and this is something I've really tried to bestow upon our coaches, is the simple fact that this is an extension of the classroom. I don't look at it as extracurricular. We're really trying to focus in on co-curricular. All these different things, all these different elements that you get through sports. The old cliche, sports develop and teach character. That may be true, but you have to have that catalyst that ultimately helps to do that. But one of the things that we really stressed last year, and we're continuing to stress this year, is this idea that we are students first. And this extension of the classroom can lead to the field, to the court, to whatever surface we're playing on. But one of the proudest things, for the 4th consecutive year, we have ultimately made, again, the School of Excellence Award. And what this essentially is, it's out of Section 6. Every section does this. But in Section 6, you need to have 75% or more of your varsity teams team average of 90 or above. We had 23 out of our 25 varsity teams excel in that area. We are one of 21 schools in Section 6 of 96 different school districts, 96 different buildings that were able to achieve this. And again, for us to do this for the 4th consecutive year and for the 8th time in the last 10 years, it is pretty impressive, not only from the athlete standpoint, the coaches, but then also the great community we have here with our students and our staff as well. Sorry, I don't have the clicker. Now, I shared this with our coaches last year, and this is one of the things that I've been extremely proud of. This is now my 19th year here at Fredonia High School. And even though the logos have changed over the years and the faces have changed and some names have stayed the same throughout the years with the Fredonia community, the one other consistent that we've had here is the fact that our athletic program is right there. I say this all the time, and I'm very fortunate to go to a bunch of different gyms. I'm very fortunate to go to a bunch of different schools. When you walk into other gyms, there are very few gyms that rival what our athletes, our students, what our community has been able to do over those years. And again, this is cumulative, and we were very fortunate, as I will share here in a moment, to add to this list. But that's the special thing, is that, you know, people will graduate, but that tradition doesn't graduate, right? And we really tried to bestow that not only with our athletes coming up, but also with our coaches to carry on that very proud tradition, whether it's their first year as a head coach or, you know, many years down the road. Now, just to give you an idea of all of our champions, and I'll get them up here, we had multiple league champions, including 2 singles, we had sectional champions, we had state qualifiers, and we had 3 state champions. Very, very impressive considering not only the size of our district, but also with the number of sports that we offer. There are very few schools, not only in Section 6, but that I would argue in the state, that are able to see this much achievement just in one calendar year. With that being said, we also had many recognized to all-state teams, including another high school All-American who we'll talk about here in a second. But again, this is recognized in Section 6, which is essentially Western New York. Over here we've got our New York State sports writers teams that are recognized across statewide, across all the different classifications when it comes to schools. And then ultimately, Elizabeth Bucci-Schaefer, who also won states last year in diving, was once again nominated as a high school All-American. On top of that, we just keep going. We had a bunch of different record breakers. Elizabeth Bucci-Schaefer not only won states, but she also set her 6 dive total at an even higher mark. Allie Say, our girls swim coach, she mentioned it, but there are very few pools that Elizabeth has swum in that she has not or does not hold the record for the dive. It's absolutely amazing. Trent Krenzer not only did it once, but did it twice last year in the pool. One of these records was from way back in 1979, so that one was clearly one that had been there for a long time. We had our 4x4 girls track team, and then Elise Begay in the triple jump as well. We are also very fortunate with the support of not only the school board, but the community with our unified sports program. Last year we offered bocce for the first time. I will share the numbers here in a moment, but we had great participation numbers there. Bowling is now in its 4th or 5th year. Again, phenomenal numbers. Basketball, 3rd year, and one of the great things that we were able to have last year, and we were recognized not only with our school district, but our community, is the fact that we are now a national unified champion school. That is a very, very select company, not only in New York State, but across the United States as well. Now, I did mention those participation numbers. This is a little small up here, but I can send you this. We had very, very good numbers through all of our different seasons and all of our different teams last year. We were combined in the fall for swimming and cross country, in the winter for wrestling, and then in the spring for swimming in the winter as well, and then in the spring for girls mod softball and golf. Girls Mod Softball, we were very fortunate. We were worried about losing them last year as far as the team with our participation numbers. I talked with Scott Hazelton over at Forestville. They were in a similar situation. We were able to create a situation where we combined teams to save, I don't want to say save the program, but allow these young women to participate and compete at the modified level. And then just to kind of give you an idea with these numbers here, we had almost 800 different athletes wear, or I should say combined, an orange and black uniform. And one of the things that I talked about at our coaches meeting 2 weeks ago now is just the pride and honor that needs to go into wearing that orange and black. When you put that uniform on, you represent yourselves, you represent your school, you represent your community, you represent all of these different things. And it's just amazing when I started crunching these numbers that with everyday PE and obviously our, not extracurricular, but co-curricular athletics, we are not only helping these athletes, these student athletes, to stay engaged mentally, physically, socially, emotionally. And that's one of the special things here. As I mentioned, all of our teams had full rosters. There was only in a couple situations that we had to combine, and it not only benefited our student athletes, but also the student athletes from these other schools that we combined with as well. As far as the evaluations, I had sent this to the board. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer. But just real quick, administrative feedback. Things were very, very smooth last year. I thought everybody was very much on the same page. District funding sufficient for that year. I have talked with Mr. Forbes, and him and I have been in constant communication about some things, obviously moving forward, that we want to consider. Just knowing that with the wear and tear of equipment, etc., will need to be looked at. Officials. We actually talked about this at the Section 6 meeting, but the average age of officials is not getting any younger. And we need to start looking at some sort of recruitment process, maybe even with our student athletes that are willing to get out there, put in the time, because as I mentioned, eventually in the next 5 years, we are going to have an exodus of individuals who just decide to step away, not because they don't want to, but just physically because they're unable to. And at that point, I'm not sure where we're going to be, but I know it's probably not going to be a great situation if, in the fact, we are having a shortage of officials. Other evaluation, and I want to mention this as well, at the end of each season, they send out an evaluation form to each of the coaches, and they fill in all these different criteria. And as I just shared with the other ones, a lot of great parent community support, policies and procedures going back to the administrative support was right there. Public relations and the media, they were spot on. I say it all the time to our coaches, you know, we're very fortunate in Chautauqua County to have the Observer, the Post-Journal, Braden, who covers a ton of our games, all right, Ashley Brown. There are schools in Erie County that basically have circulation of the Buffalo News. And right now, the Buffalo News, with where they're at, they're only doing big piece type stories. So for us and our athletes and our community to get highlighted the way they do, it's simply amazing. We're very fortunate to have that down here in Chautauqua County. Scheduling of activities, just a couple hiccups here and there, just due to the nature of certain things that come up, but we were able to iron those out. Again, student discipline, eligibility. One of the things we really focused on last year was to be proactive from the beginning of the year and try and get students who may struggle in the classroom with this student-athlete concept on the right track. We started out on the blue card. There were some hiccups early on, but I really think we were able to catch these individuals before they got 5 weeks into the school year. They dug themselves a pretty big hole that they couldn't get out of, and ultimately help them academically. Supplies and equipment, again, we were able to move some money around when things came up with the help of Mr. Forbes, and I will say Greg Lauer too, who helped to put the budget together. And then I got my first taste of what that entails this past winter. Very exciting stuff, I know. And then lastly, just kind of two of the bigger items that I don't want to say were problematic. Obviously, it's on everybody's radar. Dr. Z just talked a little bit about one of them. Facilities, I know we've talked about this for many, many years. Again, those are things we're obviously going to have to continue to identify and work on as we move forward. And the transportation issues last year, it wasn't anybody's particular fault, but on any given day, a first student, a driver called in, they were sick, they couldn't make it. Obviously, that changed after school bus runs, that changed after school charters, that had to move games around very, very frequently. In some instances, we had to have parents drive. It wasn't the ideal situation, but through trial and error, a lot of conversations with Dr. Z and I, trying to remedy the situation, we were able to, for the most part, get everybody to where they need to be on times. Again, we had to adjust at times, but overall, I don't know if it could have got any worse, but I'm glad I got that out of the way on my first year. Now I have a little bit better of idea how to handle that. And then, just kind of moving forward into this fall, currently we have 296 student athletes participating in all of our sports, just shy of 300. And one of the things that we shared at the coaches meeting, and I wanted to highlight, is just kind of this idea of where we start, right? Our foundational components. And these core priorities, core teaching and coaching priorities of us helping to establish our students becoming the best version of themselves. Really just putting in practice with that co-curricular component here, that everything we do on a day-to-day basis is not at a loss once we get to, we'll say, day after final programs. And I know I cruised through that. I was told I had about 10 minutes, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, then that's okay too.
Thank you, Mr.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering, can you tell us something about the blue card? How does that kick in?
Sure. So right now, the blue card is an academic component to basically say that if a student is failing 2 or more classes, that we obviously need to get them to a level that they're able to, be in a situation that they're passing. Now, just because you may be struggling academically doesn't necessarily put you in a situation where you're unable to compete, participate in any extracurricular. This is not just interscholastic sport driven, but it could be for the play, the musical, anything along those lines. And essentially, the students have to stay after. Multiple times a week, they have to get their blue card signed. If they are all caught up on assignments, if they have stayed after, they don't necessarily have to be passing, but they need to be working towards getting their grade to a passing level. And these are evaluated every 5 weeks. Huge shout out to Ms. Korzeniewski, who last year really took this on full head of steam. We did this a couple of years prior. We got away from it with COVID, but again, with that notion that we want to get our students off to the right foot, we didn't want to allow them 5-week head start to sort of dig themselves a hole, as I mentioned before, that they couldn't get out of, and then really position themselves to where they're clawing and scratching their way out the rest of the year just to get above sort of sea level. Does that answer your question?
Sure does.
It's great to hear that we're doing things for students. And obviously, a lot of our student athletes have really good grades, but it's nice to know we're doing stuff to help those who maybe don't. Can you talk about the busing? It was an issue last year, you said. We anticipate it's going to be an issue again, which I'm assuming we do. And are we doing anything to address that? Like, are we pushing for later start times on games, or can you talk about that?
It's kind of a combination of a little bit of everything that you described. I did reach out to first student. They seem to think that they're going to have some extra drivers this year, which will help with the charters after school. As you all know, what Dr. Ziliak's described is the bus company for a student. They have to take care of not only our bus runs, but also Dunker. So as I mentioned before, if somebody calls in, if somebody is sick, somebody needs to pick up that run, and then it's just sort of the domino effect from there. One of the things that I've started to look at is, right now, before we were taking a boys modified soccer bus and a boys varsity soccer, varsity girls, mod girls, and we were taking 2 separate buses, and they were going to the same location. So I said, look, coaches, we're going to try this the first couple games. We're going to see if it can work. We may have to eventually, if it comes down to it. We have a travel roster where unfortunately not everybody that's on the roster will be able to travel just due to bus, obviously, constraints. And with that mindset, instead of having 2 buses out, we would have 1 bus out. One of the other things that has also helped us out within our girls swim program, Pine Valley has helped us out with transportation. So anytime our girls swim team has to travel on the road, Pine Valley is part of their agreement to merge with us. They have said we're going to take the transportation, which again frees up another bus. One of the problems we had specifically in the spring, again, we didn't have the greatest spring weather, you all know that, but similar type item. If we have 2 teams going to the same spot, I'm going to do my best to make sure that if, again, buses are tight or we have a bunch of charters out that day, Dunkirk has a bunch of charters out that day, that we're gonna see if we can't consolidate it within reason and safety to make sure that we not only get our athletes there on time, but we also don't have to move games around too much. The spring it becomes extremely problematic, as I mentioned, due to the weather. And unfortunately, Mother Nature is still undefeated, so we're still trying to beat her, but I don't know if we ever will.
Along with that, when our older kids were playing district sports, girls softball share boys baseball. Do they not travel, or do their travel not like?
That was one of the things I had brought up, and unfortunately, because the leagues are slightly different, they don't always align. But moving forward, now knowing what I know, anytime that, let's say, the boys baseball team and the girls softball team is both going to Southwestern, we're going to consolidate a bus there. There are certain issues where there's a team that doesn't necessarily align, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that that's the way that we don't have 10 charters going out and everybody's going to different spots. We may have to be creative and move things around. That is definitely one of the things that I noticed and I learned last year is that there's opportunities for these consolidations. I just need to look at it. Coaches need to sort of look at it and be proactive about it. That way we can get the games in on time, especially with the nature of the schedule when it comes to Section 6 and then New York State playoffs.
Thinking out loud here, I think we've spoken about this before, it's not really time for a big discussion about it now, but would it, Dr. Z mentioned all the costs associated with owning buses, but would it, are there any districts that own like one bus or something?
We've actually explored that opportunity. I've talked to Mr. Forbes about maybe trying to get a rental van through Enterprise, or, I mean, we've really exhausted a lot of these. The issue is, and this is what I found out just meeting with these athletic directors at the different meetings, is that even the districts that have their own buses and they have their own drivers and mechanics, they're in the same situation. They're struggling to have drivers. They're struggling when somebody calls in, they have to make that up, and they have their own charters. And that's where it becomes somewhat problematic. Now, for some of maybe the smaller schools, and I think this could be a really good opportunity for me to reach out to them, that don't have a ton of fall sports or winter sports or whatever, maybe we can reach out to them to see if we are in a pinch that we could potentially utilize their services. For instance, right now I believe the only, Forestville, I think they only have girls volleyball that is solo. Everything else is with Soda Creek. Now, I don't know specifically what their arrangement is on transportation, but based on the proximity, maybe that's something I can look into and explore.
They have their own buses.
Forestville has their own buses, yes.
Mr. January, does First Student have any 7 or 12 passenger vans? Because I know that there's sports like golf, tennis, they don't need a 60 passenger bus. Any 7 or 12 passenger vans per student, or something we can figure out? Because we don't need a special driver's license.
Correct. First Student, unfortunately, does not, even their smaller buses, due to sort of the special needs that they have for transportation issues with them. Those are really tied up for a long time. I talked to Mr. Forbes about saying, hey, does BOCES have vans that are available? I called up BOCES, I spoke with them last year, and unfortunately, it's like every single time, just dead end, roadblock, roadblock, roadblock.
Do other schools have 7 or 12 passenger vans for golf, tennis, smaller schools?
Some of them do, they do. A lot of those schools, though, they also have their own transportation department, kind of what Dr. Z said before. They have somebody that services them. I don't know specifically if those vehicles are leased. That could be something that I look into. But I know for certain, yes, especially what you just described there, for some of those sports that don't necessarily need a 42-passenger vehicle, we're able to utilize some vans that we have.
From the other side of it, you have to think of First Student as being a business, so they're not going to have a 12-passenger van that we don't use that's sitting in the parking lot 6 out of 7 days a week. They need their vehicles to be moving.
Right. I think it's a creative solution by having Pine Valley join into this. So we have, how many schools do we have combined sports with? I mean, not on the spot.
Yeah, so in the fall, it is boys and girls cross country. That includes modified, varsity and modified. That's Westfield and Fredonia. When we get to swimming, that's where we have 5 different schools. We have Fredonia, we have Dunkirk, we have Forestville, we have Pine Valley, and we have Casadega. And Pine Valley's actually been creative too to make sure that they not only get their athletes there, but they actually have a transportation coordinator that both districts share. They're able to swing by, pick up the Casadega ladies, and then bring them and drop them off as well. Into the winter, we're combining wrestling, boys and girls, with Silver Creek and Forestville. And then in the spring, I'm not sure what's going to happen with mod softball. Again, that was just a one-year merger based on numbers. But we are combined for golf with Forestville.
And I assume that in all these cases, in most of these cases, we would sustain one team. I don't know, but we're doing this to help these other schools out, or are we? Do we have sports where we would have to need one?
Based on the numbers last year, it would only been modified girls softball. Boys swim would have been extremely low, and that might have been one that we would have had to consider merging because there was only around, I think, 11 athletes on that specific team. But from the other mergers, Fredonia had enough participants to carry the team.
Is Pine Valley the only school that runs any average representation?
Forestville, when we merged with mod softball last year, I talked to Scott and I said, hey, based on this late season merger, we're already struggling with buses. Would you be able to pick up the buses for the girls' modified softball team? They were able to do that. So again, it's one of those collaborative processes that if we're able to get ahead of it, have some conversations, we're able to have some successes. The unfortunate part, as I mentioned though, is a lot of times, I dreaded looking at my phone or even answering the phone when first student called because I knew it was going to create basically, as I mentioned, this domino effect where we were all set and then all of a sudden 2 o'clock hits and boom, everything just kind of goes by the wayside. It's more of a day-to-day thing than it is a long-term thing. The long-term thing is, I can look at the schedule and we can move different pieces around, but what it really came down to last year was the day-to-day uncertainty of what was going to take place.
Any other questions?
One other comment. I saw in your slide that you were working already with Mr. Bennett in music to resolve conflicts proactively, and I just appreciate that because a lot of the kids do music in sports, and it's very difficult, and those conflicts are out of their hands. And so I appreciate, because it's a special thing to be able to do both, and it's hard when there's those big conflicts. So I just wanted to say that's a big deal, and I appreciate it.
And really, there was just one instance last fall that we had a playoff game, and there was just no way that we could move the event just due to the nature of the Section 6 and the New York State playoffs. And once we kind of both came to understanding on that, we were able to look at this upcoming year and say, hey, this is what we can avoid these potential weeks. Again, that doesn't take into consideration any snow days or anything else, but if we can try and get ahead of the curve, then
Right,
much
just the
better
fact
off.
that you're looking at it is great, because I don't think they have been on
So we're working on it.
You do a great job. Thank you.
Again, I appreciate that. I've mentioned this before. I'm very humbled and honored to carry down the tradition, but it isn't a one-person show. This really, it takes the Board of Education, again, just going back to it, we were able to add modified girls flag football this last year. That was a board decision. It's the teachers, it's the community, it's everybody that helps to make this go. I'm the one that they call though when issues come up. And I guess that's par for the course, and I accept that. But again, people for many years have been able to provide me as a coach for what I needed, and now it's just my turn to pay it forward. So I appreciate it.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. McCary.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
And Mr. Bertrand, we know you have a lot of commitments, and if you need to head out, we certainly understand.
I taught government for years. I got to stay for the whole function.
Or we won't sign your cheat.
Thank you very much, that was great. I have to watch that twice to get all that in. So. You did such a great job with athletics. Okay, great. So we're going to move on to personnel now, and we have two approvals for hiring tonight. Our first is we need to approve the appointment of Shane Murphy, who's in attendance, who holds professional certification in biology 7 through 12, to a probationary teaching position in the science tenure area. Can I have a motion to bring that to the table? Mr. Kenny, a second.
Second.
Ms. Hahn, thank you. Dr. Zones.
Yeah, so at this stage of the game, you kind of get down to the wire, and sometimes you're not sure who might come forward as a candidate. So with both our appointments tonight, certainly Shane, we're very lucky to have somebody with his credentials, which I'll talk about in a minute, coming on board with our middle school science program. So welcome to Shane. And just to give you a little more information, Masters of Science from Buff State, Bachelors of Science right here in SUNY Fredonia. Taught 3 years of high school science in Allegheny Limestone, so glad to have you back. In the black and orange here, student taught down the road at Maple Grove, Maples Point. Also did some substitute teaching in Casadega, and speaking of sports, some cross-country assistant coach somewhere along the line there. One of the unique things about Shane is a big part of his background. He's also been involved in Quest here for, a number of years, Shane? Or no?
16 or 17.
Yeah, 16, 17 years. But definitely background in conservation, outdoor, recreational, educational programs, experiences. Again, Quest right here locally, but also a couple different things in Maine. Some connection with the Buffalo area, and also in Jamestown as well. So all of that really, I think, put Shane in a position where he has some unique and very positive relationships with our students, and I think he's going to do a fantastic job. Again, very happy to have him on board. Ms. Paul Hamus, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, we are elated that he'll be starting the year for us. I think he's going to be an amazing addition to both our science departments and our Team 8 staff. So we are thrilled to have him. He's done such a great job for us subbing. Our kids adore him, families. I think it's going to be a great fit.
Great, thank you. Well, first we'll approve you, and then we'll congratulate you on your comments. So, any questions for Mr. Wolf? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Murphy. Yeah, as is tradition, we always ask those in attendance if they'd like to say a few words. Any comments at all? Or?
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. It's going to be a great time. It's good to be back, and it's a bright future looking forward to.
Is your brother Sean?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Sean and Shane. Yep.
It's Sean, my sons and daughters, classmate, teammate, everything. So, and Quest. I was out there this year, and one program. So great. You hit the ground running with those kids. They already know you.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to applying the relationships I make with the 8th graders over the entire academic year before we get out on Quest. I get to know them here and there, and I get to know the student leaders really well, but I'm excited to sort of, put the bug in their ear, both, literally and potentially metaphorically for Quest being out there. So it's going to be great.
That's a big plus, Congratulations again. And like Mr. Bertrando, you're not a history major, so if you feel like you would like to lead, you feel.
Well, I took my lessons from Mr. Bertrando, so I also.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes. Okay. He's phys ed now, so you can skip out if you want. Well, you're welcome to stay. Thank you. Our second approval tonight is the appointment of Jackie Menahan, who holds permanent certifications in school psychologist and special education, to a probationary teaching position in the school psychologist tenure area. Do I have a motion to bring that to the table? Mr. Barton, a second?
Second.
Ms. Gully, thank you. Dr. Zilliams.
Again, start coming down to the wire, and this position's been open for a while, although Mrs. Farrell was able to secure some support from BOCES last year to help kind of offset that gap. But this position's been opening. School sites in general are getting more and more difficult to find, and then to actually hire once they are in the market locally. So Jackie has worked a number of years in Connecticut, started right in the early 2000s and spent a lot of time in Wilton Public Schools, pretty much from 2006 until now. Was in New Fairfield prior to that, also at the Connecticut Center for Child Development. And just has a really varied background. She did her master's at Fordham, and she did her bachelor's at Binghamton. Very fortunate to have her coming on board. I think she's a great fit for our elementary school. There's a wealth of experiences. She does send her regards. She happens to be in Guatemala right now, visiting her son, visiting the Peace Corps. So that's pretty exciting. And have talked with her a number of times while she has been there, interviewing and kind of wrapping up this process. So we're excited. Mr. Jollinger, anything you want to throw in the mix there?
It's she's a great person. Chris and I had the honor of interviewing her, and she's a storyteller, very personable. I think she'll have no problems very quickly building relationships with kids and teachers. So I think we're lucky to have her. Anything from you?
Yeah, no, same. She was a really great person to meet with. All of her references talked about her relationship building, her love of children. I think her agency work, her special ed background certainly brings a lot to the table in terms of school psychology. So we're really excited to have the full complement of our school psychologists filled out for this year.
Any questions, comments from the board? No? All in favor? Opposed? Congrats to Ms. Benhat for joining us. Two good positions, science and psychology. And, how was that for the year starting? Good field?
So in terms of straight instructional programs, or instructional positions, we are good to go. Is there one?
One special.
Okay, that's right. I forgot. Your resignation. I lost that. So one special ed teacher, a couple aides here and there that also resigned recently. In fact, are on the agenda tonight. So we're down from where we were a month ago. Yeah, we're in a good spot.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Okay, well, moving on, the rest of personnel is in consent, and so is all new business. So we're into our second public comment. Anybody like to speak outside the agenda? Brings us to the superintendent. So,
yeah, a couple things. In fact, they'll cover our other guests here tonight in some fashion. Earlier today, obviously we had our opening with faculty and staff. Very positive, very upbeat, very welcoming, enjoyable day. It was great to see everybody back in the building. We started as an admin team with a presentation this morning, and I'm not going to take you through all of it, but I'm just going to kind of hit on some of the highlights. But, you know, certainly one thing we want to do is thank everybody who is involved in getting everything ready for today. And then again on Tuesday, when students actually enter the building, but also thinking about everything that's going to happen over these next 10 months, and really just showing some gratitude and thanks for everybody. A couple things just to highlight: inside of the building's looking fantastic. Our grounds are looking great for our fall sports season. All the fields were ready to go, looking really good. It also helped that we didn't have to mow a whole lot this summer, but we'll take it. And we could probably use the rain to soften up the fields a little bit. I mean, just got a little bit ago. Obviously, our admin team is here almost all summer, working hard. Sometimes people say to me, "What do you administrators do all summer?" Less kids in the building, but you know, a lot of hard work. Our high school summer school went very well. Our extended year summer program went very well. Our secretaries are here, 12-month, hard-working group who really are the engine behind all of our offices and make things go. So, not going to take time to read through all of those, but just a great group of people with the goal of doing great things for kids as we approach this school. Also welcomed our new members, and at some point, we've hit on all these people. We have a moment to introduce everybody. I'm sure at the building level, there'll be a little bit more of an introduction when they get to the faculty meetings. Most of them are tomorrow. So yeah, new staff, Wheelock Elementary, middle school, high school. We touched very briefly, trying to ground everything back really in that idea of mission, vision, core beliefs. We come back to, our mission really being, why do we exist? What do we see as a purpose? And this idea of everyone becoming their greatest selves, whether you're a student or an adult, we remind people that way back when we established these statements, we really went through defining all of the words that combine make these statements what they are. Same thing with our vision statement. What do we aspire to be as a district? We aspire to be innovative, dynamic, and global, what we're doing with our students and what we're doing as adults. Again, we took the time to really think about all of those terms and what they mean to us. Again, core beliefs, thinking about what are the principles that drive our behavior and our decision making. And we've spent a lot of time recently on being very student focused. Also communication with positive intent, but really all of these core beliefs are equally as important. And those are the ones that we just really highlighted over recent conversations. So long-term plan, we reminded people that we had a committee of people together that really set a direction for the district over the next 3 to 5 years. We reminded people that we drew some comparisons between ourselves and other districts locally. And similar districts across the state. We absolutely put a community survey out there, tried to get input from as many stakeholders as we possibly could, and then eventually resulted in a SWOT analysis, really thinking about where we are in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That resulted in a larger plan, and this visual that Dr. Wright was nice enough to piece together for us. But it's really that middle column where the bulk of the work is sort of simplified. This idea of focusing on literacy, curriculum, intervention, the 7 habits, along with Leader and Me, which we'll talk about momentarily, and also thinking about not only our capital projects, but also just the upgrading of facilities in general. Also talked a little bit about our ongoing facilities work, and we have a couple of exciting things I just really want to remind people of. Part of our outlay project for the summer, again, our $100,000 yearly annual project that we're able to do at the aidable rate of about $82 back on every $100 we spend. Upgraded some flooring in the elementary school. That's kind of the side amount that we need to spend indoors if we do work outdoors. But we are just concluding work on really upgrading accessibility to the main campus playground. We have really expanded the rubberized surface out there. We have a new piece of equipment. It's very collaborative and inclusive, and also a swing that serves the same purpose. So we're excited. It's still fenced off right now. That surface is just cured over the last few days. But we're hoping to be good to go with chips back in place for the remainder of the playground by the time the kids come on board on Tuesday. So we're excited. As we know, we also passed Proposition 1 as part of our capital project vote almost a year ago now. $22 million worth of work. We divided it into Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 that will be coming up about a year from now, or at least at the end of the school year, is going to be a bunch of work with the roofs at Wheelock. 2 new playgrounds at Wheelock that are going to be really sharp and state-of-the-art. Some work on our maintenance shed down at the Wheelock campus. Also our track resurfacing out back. And we also recently did a board tour of some of this work. You got a chance to go up on the roofs here anyway, which will eventually be part of the Phase 2 work. And really see the wear and tear that happens over time. Really look at those air handler units that some of them look like maybe they've been through a war and a battle and maybe losing the battle at this point. And also really gives you a perspective of the amount of roofs we have, especially here on the main campus. It's expansive, and that makes sense that primarily our campus is one floor, which obviously increases the square footage We ended up looking at some electrical panels, looking at our generator that'll eventually be replaced. It was a good moment to spend with Young and Right, reviewing some of the work that would be done. More information coming on phase 2 of Prop 1, which is a little bit further down the road. And we're happy to be up and running and moving forward with phase 1, and it'll be exciting. We also talked a little bit today about the 7 habits of Leader Me. As you know, we've spent the last year or so working with the adults in our district to really think about what are these habits, what does this look like for us personally as adults or professionally as adults, and then now thinking about how are we going to connect students to this work. And it's exciting. We'll see an update from each of our buildings, but we reminded everybody of the 7 habits and a brief summary of each one of those habits and how they help people be effective and successful in whatever their role might be. We also have a couple visuals that we've been using to really think about, as more of a visual reminder, and also breaking it down a little bit more into thinking about managing yourself, and then also leading others, and ultimately unleashing potential for everyone across the district. Each of our buildings is at a different spot, and it makes sense, different ages, different groups, different approaches to how we do this. So right now at Wheelock, they are starting to really get into that early learning curriculum, and that'll be the start of the school year. Elementary, same. They have dedicated a time of day when they will start teaching lessons based on the 7 habits and Leader Me. Middle school, starting with the first 8 days, again, really getting this into the classroom and opening the door to those conversations and this information. But at the high school, it's a little bit different, and we do happen to have Barb here tonight, who is our Leader Me coach. She is intermittently throughout the district, working at times individually with each building team, sometimes with our admin team, and most recently with a group of high school students who are really looking at, first of all, and I think they have learned about these concepts, and now they're thinking about next steps at the high school level. So Barb, maybe you could just give us a 1 to 2 minute overview of the work you've been doing and what's happening tomorrow.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Barb Littner. I'm your Leader Me coach, and I just want to tell you how honored I am to be here and part of your journey. It's a process that we bring into districts, buildings, staff, students, families, that really transforms your culture into one where the end in mind, habit 2, is that students will be leading. They'll be leading themselves, they'll be leading with others, and they'll be leading in their school. And most importantly, they'll be empowered by your staff to lead their own learning. One of the 5th paradigms that we work through is how do we re-engage families and community to our schools post-COVID. And that's probably the most challenging one of which all of your staff and building administrators are leaning into, but it's educators and families partner to develop the whole child. And so that's what we're leaning into as a transformational process. It looks different in each of the buildings. Elementary, pre-K, and elementary are starting with that direct teach. Middle school, there needs to be some scaffolding where eventually students will be leading those lessons. And high school, I've had the honor to work with them 2 days in July, building their capacity of what the 7 habits are, what is leadership, and what are some of the things that they want to do to transform the culture of their school. They will be doing a kickoff tomorrow for the high school staff, and they will be also leading a kickoff for the middle school staff. And this is literally where it starts. And so those students will probably take on more and more leadership roles and opportunities. They will probably be mentoring some of the middle school because that's the in-betweenies, right? So they're kind of, right? That's a very important age, but then if they have other students to be their mentors and to be their guides and their role models, they too will be stepping into that. I have K-8 buildings, high schools, that don't do their back to school, that don't run their events. It's all students. So the 3 to 5 year vision from now, from here to 3 to 5 years, is your students will be leading. They'll be leading things and events in their school, they'll be leading their learning, they will be teaching these lessons, a lot of it happening first at high school, then it will go down and trickle down into, but we have kindergartners that could lead if we see that paradigm. And so it's a big shift, it's a shift, and we had a real graceful year to build the staff, because this is a paradigm shift for staff, right? We have to live through release rather than control, and that takes a lot of a shift, because we're adults. So I would hope that you get a chance to go into the buildings this year. Tomorrow you can see some of this happening, where the students are going to be leading their kickoffs, and I'm just really excited to be your partner and to be here as the coach. It is not Franklin Covey's process. It is not Barb Littner's process. It is your process. It is Fredonia School District. It is each of the buildings. It will look different because you have different staff, students, and families in each of these buildings. So I'm just honored to be part of your process. Any questions? When you're doing a lot of this, what it does is it aligns with what you're already doing and the results that you want to get, designed to help you get those results. So, thank you. And I just heard you were having a meeting tonight, and I thought I would come and just see what you're all about and introduce myself. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you. The other thing we did today was really, try to set a tone for the school year, and one of the things that we want to do is show that we're engaged in the habits as well. One of the habits is sharpen the saw, which is really about professional development, moving forward in your profession, your responsibilities, taking a step forward, improving your game, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like every year as an admin team, especially in the summer, we all do this, but we really haven't shared it out. So we just all took a minute, and we're going to ask everybody just to summarize, and maybe down to 30, 45 seconds, the slide that they shared today, kind of under this guise of not only showing that, hey, we're walking the walk with the 7 habits, we're sharpening the saw as an example today, but also that there's some unity amongst our admin team. We're a united front, and we're together, and we're really looking forward to a great school year, and we'll continue to collaborate as we go. What I had looked into a little bit this summer is the ideas of Marcus Aurelius, right? So, Roman emperor from over 2,000 years ago. And it's amazing to see the crossover between Marcus Aurelius and Leader in Me, #1, or 7 Habits, and a lot of other pretty common themes in either leadership or in education. I didn't share all these today. If you can click one more, Kate. But these are just 10 of them that are laced into the work. And just a couple. First of all, #1, don't worry about others are doing. Focus on you is the one that I've really landed on this summer, and really thinking about, within a school district, within a community, and within a state, there's a lot going on. And the one thing I can control, my sphere of influence, most importantly, is myself. And really spending some time thinking about how can I get better at what I'm doing, and therefore that'll automatically contribute to the greater good. Another one here that ties in directly with Leader in Me or 7 Habits is never complain, you can create change. And one of the tenets within the habits is that the change starts with us, the change starts with me. And everybody has the ability to create change, and if you find yourself in a situation that might require change. So just a couple examples there. I used a quick clip, which I will show, from Jerry Seinfeld, talking about where he gets material from, and then talking about how he started reading Aurelius, and that really, again, made him stop worrying about what other people think of him, how he is perceived, people that talk negatively about him, and that spending a lot of time or energy in that space is really wasted time. how can he be a better comedian, how can he be a better husband, how can he be a better father, is really what we should be doing and the most beneficial to us. So that was my piece. Margie, right?
Great, thank you. So I focused, really, I've been focusing, I should say, a lot on the concept of impermanence. And it really is a shift in perspective, and it looks at impermanence as liberating rather than something painful. And so I chose this to be a visual representation of it, and that is a mandala, a sand mandala specifically. Those are created painstakingly over days by, in this case, Buddhist monks. And what they do at the end of this incredible creation, and if you can YouTube video it, but they have these wooden tools they use to actually blow these really thin lines intricately over these designs. And each of the designs has a theme. So the theme of the design is meant to be something positive they want to share with the world. At the end of it, and that's what you see there, they begin to then take a brush and sweep all of it into the center, into a pile, this beautiful creation. And then that is taken and put into a vessel and carried to a water source where they release it so that what the symbolic nature of it is, say for example, compassion, empathy, whatever, that is what the energy they're putting into the water to travel to wherever it may travel. And so that's just one example, and you can see this in many different parts of life. So as I began to look at it for myself, you know, and we think about, you know, there's all kinds of memes and sayings about, you know, when just keep going and, you know, dance in the rain and all this stuff, but impermanence also is the happy times. So those that day after Christmas morning, right, when we're all like, oh, you know, but rather stay present, you know, appreciate it. And I was saying today, you know, it's why we capture all those pictures we never print out anymore, because we want a piece of that. So go back, revisit it, but look at it as liberating you rather than agonizing and anxiety over it or so sad about it or any of those things. Just it's how it goes. There's times, you know, and that's what I started looking for all over in the world. And I started looking at song lyrics. So we all know "Turn, Turn, Turn," you know, the famous song. You know, to everything there is a purpose. There is a season. And you know, when I think about being a mom and child rearing, right? Some of those days you're just like, oh my gosh, you know, but then you turn around and go, I miss it so much. So it's the idea of stay in the here and now and know that everything in life has the impermanence. So.
Mrs. Farrell.
Well, that's deep stuff. Mine was about geese, so not maybe quite as deep. But,
we got to live this today, which is
we
hilarious.
did.
Yeah.
So many years ago, right here in our district, on one of the opening days, there was a gentleman that came and presented some information. And I don't remember how he wove this in, but he left behind this little story, a parable called The Sensible Goose. And there's a couple of different phases to it. So the first part talks about when geese fly in a V formation, that formation has some power to it. It creates uplift and it creates velocity and strength for everyone to move in a common direction, or for all those birds to move in a common direction, have a sense of community, and get to their destination more quickly and efficiently because they're traveling on the thrust of each other. So then the next part is when one of those geese falls out of formation, it feels the drag and the resistance of going in on their own. And because geese are really smart, that goose quickly gets back into formation because they need to fly on the power of the bird that's leading. So the lesson there is if we have as much sense as goose, we will fly and stay in formation with those headed in the same direction as us. The next part talked a little bit about leadership. So the lead goose in the V is breaking through the wind and really the one that's kind of creating the power. But that lead goose inevitably gets tired and has to rotate back and another goose takes point. So sort of the lesson there is that leadership is hard and it's really worthwhile to share those hard tasks and for us to really work together to do the hard work. Geese honk from behind to encourage the ones in front of them to keep up with the pace and keep up with the speed. And We all hear that honking, right? There's noise behind us. The honking should be encouragement, and we also have to make sure that our honking doesn't really mean something else. That we're really staying positive, being encouraging. And then finally, when one of those geese falls, gets sick or is wounded by a gunshot and can't fly anymore, it is said that 2 geese fall out of formation, follow that wounded bird down to the ground, wait with it until it's ready to take flight again, until it dies. And only then do the other birds join back in either out on their own or join another flock and hopefully catch up with their own. So really the big takeaway is that if we have as much sense as a groupsman, we will sort of stick by and support no matter what. So that was my thought for today. It's recycled again from many, many years ago, but I feel like it's a really worthy little piece. I've seen it titled different things, I've seen different wording, I've seen it credited to different people, but I credited the person that I did the research. I think is the one that originated that story.
Very good. Mrs. Piper shared, and I'll just summarize in a couple seconds, that Wheelock did a voluntary book study about the let them theory, and I think her thing was really this idea of gaining peace, confidence, and freedom when you stop trying to control other people and their choices and really instead focus on your own. So Amy and I had sort of a connection there in terms of what we were sharing. Mark Trellinger, how about you?
Yeah, so I felt it was important to take my time to honor some of our new employees, our new hires, and things like that. And I shared with the whole district one of my favorite questions. So when I'm interviewing, I always ask every teacher, I go, why are some teachers more successful than others? And that kind of like, I learn a lot from people. That helps me understand what they view as successful, and then it helps me better understand the things that they do in the classroom. So this summer, as a part of my self-reflection and growth, I asked myself, why are some schools more successful than others? And I've taught all around Western New York, from Dunkirk, I taught there for 10 years, to Orchard Park for a little bit, Pioneer for a short time, and then here. And through my 4 districts, I've learned that schools are very similar. Like, they all have good kids, they want to learn, the teachers want to do the right thing, but what's the big difference? And I think the schools that are most successful are the ones that celebrate, that are relentless about celebrating their successes. They're the schools that when they're in public, they're singing the school's praises. They're not the schools that are saying, oh, what was our school? So I issued a challenge to everyone. I said, let's make the positives so loud this year that the negatives kind of fade into the background. And I didn't want to say we're not going to ignore the challenges, because sure, like any district, good ones and the bad ones, we are going to have challenges. So my challenge to the staff was, let's not ignore those, let's just not give them the microphone. And let's approach every situation with a win-win attitude and seeking to understand. So that was kind of my message this year, and I think it was received. It was well received.
Yes. Our assistant principal at the middle school shared, kind of this thought about, how do we respond to our environment. She used the example of boiling water, right? And a carrot kind of softens and gets weak if you put it in boiling water, and an egg, on the other hand, kind of gets hard and rigid in that environment. And then she talked about this idea of, if you take a coffee bean and you put it in that environment, it actually transforms and creates something new in that environment. And basically encouraging people, if you have to be one of those things, think about being the coffee bean as opposed to the other 2 alternatives. So that was a nice summary from her. Jamie Pauline.
So I shared just kind of a bit of a personal connection. So last spring, I think it was mid-March, I found myself driving 10 hours back and forth to 2 soccer games in the Ohio area in the pouring down rain. And so I was feeling very sorry for myself because I'm spending my weekend doing this. And I thought, I can't believe I have to spend my weekend driving 10 hours in the pouring down rain, and I can't believe I'm not going to get anything done. Then all of a sudden it occurred to me that these are things that you've got to do. These are things that you have an opportunity to do. You've got to spend the weekend with Nora. You've got to watch her play soccer. You've got to watch her play something she loves and that I love to watch. You get to stand on the sidelines in what turned from pouring down rain to sideways rain and hail and then snow in their one game. But these were all things I got to do. And, I just thought to myself, this is how I need to shift my own mindset. And I remind myself of that periodically. In fact, this is a concept we could have applied about 2 hours ago when we were standing out at the soccer field and drenched. I think we're nearly dry by now, but we got to do that just some time ago. So I challenged the staff to just consider that when that internal narrative is quick to go to, I have to fill in the blank. Whether it's one time a year, one time a day, or just once ever, try to shift to I get to. And even if the circumstances haven't changed, the outcome doesn't change, at least if their own personal perception shifts in a slightly positive way, perhaps that will have a better outlook at the end of it. So here's hoping.
So Sarah Korzeneski, our high school AP, made some connections with, comparison between an eagle building a nest and our schools. And I didn't really think about that metaphor and comparison prior, but it's true. An eagle starts with one stick or one piece of material, and then over time these things are layered together to eventually produce a safe, secure environment for the younger eagles, right? And it's a little oasis unto itself, much like our school. So that was an interesting comparison. And then Ron Tonelli brought it home with the balls.
That's right. Yeah. Well, so I started by saying, Dr. Z challenged us to put these together, and really after 10 months as a high school principal and you finally get through graduation, you want to relax a little bit. And so usually I just spend my summer watching the garbage TV that I so much enjoy watching. But it did make me think a little bit, and I do read a lot. Being a former English teacher is one of my favorite things to do. And I do love Bruce Springsteen a lot too. And so I use a little bit of him in this. So like Jamie just mentioned, she travels a lot for soccer, so do I with my daughter. And last May or so, we found ourselves in New Jersey for a soccer tournament. And Beyonce was playing a concert in New York City, and she wanted so badly to take one night and go up there. And I said, honey, why would we do that when we could go to Asbury Park where Bruce Springsteen got started? And so there we are in Asbury Park in the bottom left there. But it started my journey down, a couple of things that I thought about here. So this summer I read a book about Bruce Springsteen that somebody wrote, and him making the Born to Run album. His first 2 albums had already been released. It didn't do well. The record company backed him big time. And in this, it talks about how he took 2.5, almost 3 years to try to perfect this album before it came out, because he knew it was his last chance. They weren't going to sing any. They made the choice. It was going to be they back Bruce or they back Billy Joel. And if he failed this time, he wasn't going to get backed up. In this summer, he also released, it's on the picture on there too, an 8-album set, things that he had never released over the last however many years he's been writing music. And you talk about somebody who could sit on 60-something songs, release them, and they're, in my eyes, they're beautiful, genius songs. Some of the lyrics are out there. Follow Your Dream is the first song on that album. And so it just kind of makes me think, like, how long do you sit on things that I would consider fantastic, perfect? Get those ideas out there. How much work are you willing to put into things so that you don't fail? And that's the book, Born to Run with this summer. So there's just a few questions that I posed there that you can kind of think about. That's how I brought it all over.
The other nice thing about this, I think it demonstrated for people, that as an admin team, we're a unique group. From Marcus Aurelius to Bruce Springsteen to all the different things that kind of came up here, and it also, I think, shows some balance as a team. We have some of us who are a little more extroverted, some are more introverted. Some of our skill sets are special ed, elementary ed, secondary ed, middle school. We balance each other out, and as a collective, we are much stronger than as an individual. And we definitely have a renewed sense of collaboration and working together and all being in this together, and I think that was evident in the conversation today. Like any other day, there were some things that were a little more businessy in the mix. Tim Kapelmeyer, our school safety officer, did a great job getting some highlights of our school safety plans. We appreciated that. Kristen touched on some mandated training around restraint, seclusion in the educational setting, as well as Margie also leading a little bit about some of the requirements for child abuse in the education setting and what are our obligations as adults. So that was our morning, and it got the school year off to a great start. I think we are feeling pretty good about where we are in the moment, and I think we're poised to have a great school year. We're certainly excited to have the students show up on Tuesday, and the next couple days we have a variety of meetings and activities and opportunities for teams to meet and faculty meetings and students to present and really get things up and running for the school year. The last thing I wanted to touch on brings us to our fourth guest today. Braden, I shared some information with him about the concerns about our water testing that we talked about a couple other times in public session, once in May and once just recently in July. And we really put some information out to our school community, faculty and staff, as well as our families, about some of the gaps in the 2021 testing and some of the things that we're doing to improve. And Braden was nice enough to receive that information and incorporate it into an article this morning, so thank you for that. We appreciate your collaboration, and as Nick mentioned earlier, also the attention you personally, but also your publication spends not only in moments on our faculty and staff, but our students, and in particular in moments our student athletes. So thanks for all of the above, we appreciate it. And I think that wraps it up unless there's questions.
Any questions on the superintendent's report? What a great opening day. I have to say that that last slide there is what we usually see for the opening day, all the nuts and bolts, and what a great idea to have inspirational messages for the admin team. You know what, it gives your staff insight into your personalities too, which is great. And all those contributions were fantastic. And probably knowing what students are with their teachers, probably the teachers didn't really say, wow, that really, they made a, that's very inspirational. So I'm sure it resonated with them. Everything was very inspirational. I have to say, though, I'm an Eagles fan, they inspire me to help these students. That's why. Miss Linder, thank you for coming. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you for coming tonight. Year two of the long-term plan. It's exciting. It's very exciting. Leader in me is a great component of that. And I'll tell you two words that at least personally resonate with me: student-led. Student-led. That's how you get things done in schools. So thank you for all that, Dr. Ziliaks. So if there's no other questions from the board, I've written so much on here I can't even read what's next. I think it's
The next Board of Education.
the next word, you might have to read it for me. I've written all over it. Next Board of Education meeting will be Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. here at the high school library. Any other general comments from the board? Ms. Hahn, you attended a few events, right?
I did. So one was Chautauqua County School Board Association dinner meeting about effective school boards. That was great. They were going to send out a PowerPoint, which I'll share. Then the other thing was, as our district's legislative liaison to the Chautauqua County School Board Association, I attended a virtual meeting with a staff member, Congressman Langworthy, and we had an opportunity to share with his representative what our legislative priorities are, which basically come from the New York State School Board Association. I don't make the money. But I did take the liberty of kind of picking three that I thought represented our school district well. So I mentioned that we're a smaller rural school district and that some of our priorities, our federal legislative priorities are that Title I be sufficiently funded to support schools dealing with learning gaps, mental health needs, and chronic absenteeism. I mentioned that we have a great special ed program and a lot of students with special needs, and that we want Congress to commit to full funding of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. And thirdly, that we urge Congress to reject all voucher proposals that divert tax dollars from public to private schools.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time championing our cause with our legislature. That's fantastic. Any other items from the board? Comments? No. Okay, great. I'll go around the table. Mr. Tonelli, anything else tonight?
I was actually just going to say a few things about Leader in Me tonight. So I'm really excited because tomorrow really kicks it off for our school. Our kids they came in for 2 days over July, but they also came in the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday of this week. And they've put together probably about 30 minutes of material for our faculty meeting tomorrow, where they're going to introduce many of the 7 habits to teachers to show them what it looks like, what it feels like to be a part of this. Student led has been thrown out a couple of times tonight, and that's really what this is. So I'm usually like a 20 to 25 minute faculty meeting guy. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit longer, and I'm actually really excited about that for the first time because it's going to be what they want us to know about Leader in Me. They have found to be really important for them about the 7 habits. They've identified some of the areas of the school that they really want to focus in on, the cafeteria being one, just a couple places where they feel like they can really lend a hand to show their leadership and to bring forth what they want for Northern High School to be. So technically there's 12 kids on the Lighthouse team. There's been about a steady group of 8 of them that have been able to attend with practices and some other things going on now. And I was upstairs for a little bit with them today. They've run through their presentation 3 or 4 times. They've got, what everybody's going to say. They've got a speaker coming because they've got walk-up music for people to use and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be a blast for us to actually see this in action tomorrow. So I'm really excited. It's a heck of a group of students. There's been 4 instrumental teachers on the Lighthouse team as well. Kathy Kruger, Mimi Joint, Lori Addington, and Kat Byer, who have really put their time and energy and effort in with them as well. So it's been really good.
Structure to this.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. Thank you. Just behind us.
Yes, and we'll be excited to welcome them after they wrap up at the high school. They'll hop down to the middle school for a similar presentation. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our tech department. I know we've said a lot of thank yous as we get ready for the start of the school year, but when I think about all that tech does to set up not only our current staff, our new staff, and then for all of our kids to get their devices and waiting on last minute orders to come in so that the devices and chargers can be staged in the kids' first period, classroom by Tuesday. They are just, and then of course, as teachers are coming back into the building, lots of questions and troubleshooting different things. So they have worked extremely hard this summer and will continue to. So I very much appreciate Andy Black and Ryan Love and Zach Dake as our tech, and of course our student tech helpers too. They've been amazing. And speaking of students, we do have some now 6th graders that will be coming back for our 5th grade orientation on Thursday to help show some kids around. They will actually be part of the presentation and explaining some of the different pieces of it to our 5th graders and their families. So we're excited to welcome them in, as well as some other kids that will help just during open house later on Thursday afternoon. So all good things.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Crowe.
Tomorrow our teachers are split between 2 different trainings. One group is going to be working with this PACS Good Behavior Game, where they're learning strategies that they can use in the classroom to help manage unruly children in a positive way. And then the other half of the staff is learning about UFly. It's a phonics program that we've adopted, and there's a lot of excitement and momentum about that. And then in November, we'll train the other half of the staff. So there's a good buzz going into tomorrow. I'm excited for both opportunities.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crowe. Ms. Farrell.
all of those things and more, right? So, I guess I'm really excited about this school year where we've really refined and right-sized some of our programming, looking at some service delivery changes. We have some ideas floating out there about growing some new initiatives for work-based learning and inclusive opportunities. So a lot of really good positive stuff happening, and I'm just excited to kind of get it all underway. Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for supporting special education in your legislative session. We really appreciate that. So,
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Ruck.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's been, today is always a big energizing day, which is just wonderful. It truly is. I want to say a huge thank you to our leadership team that you see here, as well as our two assistant principals, and Kim Bingenheimer, Tim Kappelmeyer, Kat Beyer, Cassie Farrell. All of them were part of our new faculty orientation, and it truly takes a team to make that happen. And our new faculty had the admin team with them on Monday and Tuesday. We did a lot of learning, and part of that included making sure that they were set up with their Leader in Me accounts, and they could, because they haven't been here before, have that 7 habits in a condensed, self-paced module, and to show them that and give them some time to access that and get familiar with it, so they aren't coming in wondering what these words mean, and these terms mean, and things like that. So we're grateful for our Leader in Me partners with that, and certainly for Barb for being here. And then thank you, Jamie, for shouting out our tech department. Sometimes when we say department, we forget that it's 2.5 people for the district. So 174 staff members, almost 300 completely that have to complete vector modules that have to be set up. That's not even with the almost 1,500 kids. So it's huge. So we're so appreciative of what we do. The print shop always has everything ready to go for all the things going on. And today, for the first time, a goal that we've always wanted to do is to have a teaching assistant and food service helpers training academy. And we did that today. We had about an hour and a half where we worked on de-escalation strategies, and we talked about how we can work with each other, work with students, and all the tenets of Leader in Me, 7 habits. You can see them over and over in many different themes. And the very, very, very first step in any de-escalation situation, when a child does not have the self-control they need in the situation, it's up to us to then help de-escalate it. Our goal is always, when you're in charge of you, you're regulated. When a child is not in charge of them, they need you to co-regulate. It just means you're the co-pilot. You're taking, and you can help me with this, it's not a steering wheel, but what is it in a plane that you grab a hold of? Is it a steering wheel? Okay. So, this is, yes, it is. I'm like, I didn't expect that. So, when you co-regulate, that's all you're doing is you're co-piloting until the pilot is back in charge. The child is back in charge of themselves. Every single de-escalation strategy starts with you, the adult. You have to be in the mindset. You can't help somebody if you're not regulated yourself. So we had a chance to work with our food service helpers who see every single kid every single day, our aides who are working with some of our students. The reason students have an aide is because they struggle. So we were so excited to do that, and due to a kind of a hiccup in the day, it turned out that Mrs. Farrow and I got to co-present and co-lead this. And the first thing I said to her, I go, "This is your goose slide." I go, "We're sitting here helping each other in the stream and all this kind of stuff." And it was so fun. So I appreciate partners for the day. It was nice to do that. So we were really excited to be able to have that time with our teacher aides today. As a reminder, food service and teacher aide are part of the CSEA, and they attend day 1 only. So they aren't here for day 2 and 3 of in-service. So we were able to capitalize on that. And I know that's a goal we've all had, so we were really excited to be able to do that.
Thank you, Dr.
Completely opposite of all of that.
You have something.
Putting out that the school tax bills should be mailed tomorrow, something to look forward to. And also our audit will begin on Tuesday.
Ms. Wilkerson.
Well, I was looking forward to opening my bag.
You won't have tomorrow.
I can look forward to tomorrow, just maybe not Friday. No, I'm okay.
Okay, good. And thanks to the administrators. I mean, you all have energy tonight, just running on adrenaline, right? or caffeine. I don't know, either one. You're It's a lot of work, so thank you. We anticipate the need to enter into executive session tonight to discuss personal and collective bargaining agreements. Got a motion for that, thank you. Mr. Martin, and a second, Mr. Marshall, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you for attending tonight's meeting, everybody. Enjoy what's left to do.